Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, the crowd looks a little light, but that's all right. Again, thank you all for staying and for the next session, and we're ready to start. For this afternoon, the first session afternoon, we're very fortunate to have two executives from the private sector to share with us on what they do and to tackle some of the challenges that we have been talking about in the last day and a half, whether it's changing condition, whether it's cultural development, or managed change both internally and externally. And I asked the two gentlemen to focus on hopefully they focus on their how they execute strategic planning to achieve the goals they have set for themselves with their respective organizations. So this afternoon, we're very fortunate to have Jeff Derns from Pride Industries, and he's the president of Pride Industries, and also John Reyes from Visit Sacramento. John is the chief operating officer for Visit Sacramento. So without further ado, and I'm sure both gentlemen will tell a little bit about themselves and their organization, and then I won't be reading from your programs. They can probably do it better than I could. So thank you both, appreciate it.
Thanks, TJ. How's everyone doing? Just back from lunch, so if I don't wake you up, John's got to do it. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining this session. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak on behalf of Pride Industries. Thank you, TJ, for the invitation today. My name is Jeff Dern. I am the president at Pride Industries. We are a 52-year young company that is a nonprofit and employs people with disabilities around the country. We are in 14, now actually 15 states. We just started doing business up in Seattle, Tacoma at the International Airport there. We've been doing business with the Sacramento Airport now for, I think, 6 years? About 6 years. And I just realized I'm in charge of this. All right, there's the first slide. So a little bit about Pride Industries. We were established in 1966 in the basement of a church, St. Luke's Episcopalian Church up in Auburn, California, for those familiar with this immediate area. Yeah, one over there. And quite a story. Some parents of adult children with disabilities, developmental disabilities, wanted to do something to provide their adult children with disabilities a better life, a higher quality of life. And so they formed what was then Placer Rehabilitation Industries. And over the decades, it's grown into what we are now today. While it started to be a grassroots organization back then, our current CEO started with the company back in 1983. He's been with us 34 years. It was 50 employees and about $200,000 operating budget. Really small nonprofit. Today, we're over $300 million in revenues, 5,700 employees. Okay. About 60% of the employees that we have are people with severe disabilities. Okay. Let's see, any other talking points here? 14 states. Next slide. We're headquartered in Roseville, by the way, if I didn't mention that. So right here in Sacramento area, real close to where we were founded in Auburn. We are the #1 employer of disabilities in the country. 1 in 5 Americans have a disability. Okay, it's a staggering statistic. Half of that population has work skills. Only about half of that population actually does work. Today, 2/3, roughly 70% or greater of the people with disabilities in this country are unemployed. That's compared to 3.8% for the general population. So it's a huge disparity. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about how Pride helps that huge labor supply, people with the skills but have a disability, break into employment, and how we support them and how we partner in our communities with airports and support service agencies to make that work. First of all, Pride's core competencies, we are aligned in 3 major verticals of services. We are in manufacturing and logistics. We work with customers like Hewlett-Packard, managing supply chains for them. We also are a contract electronics manufacturer. So we work with large companies that need pre-printed circuit boards, whole packages of products, constructed, manufactured, and shipped to market. So we take care of managing everything for them. They manage the sales channel. It's their IP, and we construct that. We have a plant right out here in Roseville. If anybody would ever like to come out and visit, we give tours all the time. It's pretty fantastic, very impressive electronics shop that you would never imagine existed right out in Roseville, let alone employs about 50% of the people in that shop with disabilities. Fascinating shop that we have out there. Another vertical that we're in is integrated facility services. So we do custodial, janitorial type services for the state of California, LA County, Sacramento Airport, Seattle-Tacoma Airport, and that is actually a strategic line of business for us to venture out in. We also do services in facilities maintenance. So we're on large military bases around the country, employing about 70 to 75% people with disabilities doing work that you would never imagine being done by that population. And we know how to manage it. We know how to provide those support services. And we manage up to a $60 million contract in one location, doing everything from roads and grounds, building maintenance. So you got HVAC, electrical, plumbing, carpentry, everything you can imagine. Keeping the lawns cut, keeping the trees serviced, okay? Making sure the runways are clean and clear for aircraft taking off and landing. We do all of this stuff to provide jobs for people in need in that population of people with disability. That's 74% unemployed. We're trying to make a dent in that every day. So we're continuing to grow at about 5% plus a year, which is phenomenal. The bigger you get, that becomes a bigger number, a harder target. So people services, the next line of business or vertical that we're in, is about how we connect our employees with disabilities to successful employment. Now, thank goodness there is a taxpayer system out there that actually provides support to people with disabilities, a range of services. But in the employment area, we're looking at training services. We get referrals from Department of Rehabilitation. We get referrals from the Developmental Services Department of California. And what they do is they fund job coaching, training, placement services that companies like Pride provide in order to find a home for somebody that needs a job. Now, these jobs change people's lives, as you can imagine. It's hard to fathom the number of people that we employ with disabilities, and why isn't that done more? I've scratched my head for 11 years working at Pride. We're just at the tip of an iceberg, and there's this huge population out there that needs these services in more volume and more frequency around the country. So we're making a small dent. I think we're doing a decent job. We can do so much more, but we need partnerships. I'm going to speak about that in a minute. And we need support from the communities and the service providers that we work with to deliver these services. And we need opportunities. So there's a lot of education about how we do what we do to employers. We just started some work with a large computer manufacturing company in this area. They would like 100 people with disabilities employed at their shop. And so we're going to help them figure that out. We also work with a very large distribution company that you probably shop at online. And they would like temp workers at their distribution facilities. So we're their vendor of choice in California to basically connect the dots between the skill sets that are out there in the disability community with the skills needed by employers, and we're creating that bridge. How do we do that? It's a multi-step process. We first have to educate employers. We have to provide those services to people with disabilities. We have to find the right job, the right fit. Just like you and myself, you and me, we have to be in a job that we have the right skills for and aptitude for. No different than somebody with a disability. Right? The magic is we look at their ability. We understand the disability. We have services to help accommodate the disability. Could be sight impairment, hearing impairment, mental health. Could be a developmental disability or some other physical disability. It's a wide range. It's a huge spectrum. We're very adept at understanding how to accommodate the disability, but we focus on the person's abilities and we want to find the right fit. So if it's a skilled trade like plumbing or electrical, HVAC, we can train them. We can provide certifications. Okay? Once they're certified, or as they're getting certified, we'll get an internship at a company. And the company maybe has a diversity mandate or a goal where they want to raise the bar and maybe employ 5% of their workforce. with disabilities. It's very attainable. We do, like I said, 60% and higher on competitively, bid projects. We also have quite a bit of work that's in a set-aside program that has a competitive nature to it, but we compete on our state contracts, our county contracts, the HPs of the world, the distributors of the world, and the electronics manufacturing. That's all competition, and we do it with a high percentage of people with disabilities. All right, and then once people are on the job and we fit them in the right place, we provide those services and support them to be successful. As an example, companies may find an employee has abandoned their job. They haven't shown up for 3 days straight. What happens? There's usually not much discussion. They're laid off, or they're fired, whoever said that back here, right? Because you got to have them there. They got to do the job. Well, someone with a disability may not actually understand, especially someone with a developmental disability. I should call my boss and let them know my transportation I have an issue with. My car is broken. I haven't been able to get it to the shop, right? So we actually had an employee one time this happened to. We found out that they were living in the same complex with another employee. They started carpooling until he was able to get his car fixed, right? We're not going to just fire somebody. We're reaching out to them. We're trying to make sure they're successful. We stick with them on the job. And we have people that are specially trained in counseling and support services to make sure that works. TJ lives this every day out at the airport with us. I hope we're not a burden to you because we're providing sports services, right? Our people do a good job keeping the airport clean. You go watch that big red bunny when you're flying home today or when you're flying home. We clean that. It's a work of art. We didn't used to clean the big red bunny, okay? But I guess we clean the rest of the airport okay, and they said, oh, clean the bunny. It's a piece of work. It's an artwork. There's a lot of artwork at the airport, which is really nice. So we enjoy providing high-level service while making a difference in the world. Just a quick other aside, HP is a customer that we provide services to now since the early 2000s. And HP is a company that has a very high bar for service and quality. In 2010, we were their global supplier of the year out of thousands and thousands of suppliers globally. So when I say we compete, and we'll get the job done very well. We get very high scores from our very demanding customers, rightfully so, TJ, very demanding. Trying to keep you happy. Pride's approach, industry challenges. So there's changes in every business. We have those 3 main verticals. Within those, we have different lines of business. Changing all the time. Customers want more for less. Right? That's the world we live in. It's very competitive, very price sensitive. And there's changes in the rehabilitation industry, which is our mechanism for providing those job supports. So not only are we a nonprofit, right? So the way we grow is by borrowing money from a lender, deploying that capital to provide goods and services, and then repaying that debt. As a nonprofit, we don't get to go raise private equity or public public debt, other than tax-exempt bonds. We can do that. But on top of that, we have this mission that guides everything we do. Employing people with disabilities is our mission. If we have a business challenge, our response has to be in alignment with that mission. Because if we don't stay aligned with that mission, we're getting off track, we're doing something different than what we're set up to do, and we're owned by the state of California. We're a public asset. As a nonprofit, nobody owns Pride. I don't have any stock in Pride. Our CEO and the rest of the executive team have no stock in the company. Everything we do, the profits go back into the company to grow it. Okay? So very challenging when you look at just focusing on business challenges and then you have the mission. I'm going to speed this up because I know I'm going to use too much time. Strategic planning. Everybody has some kind of strategic plan. Either it's up here, a bullet point list, maybe a 30-page manifesto that goes out 5 years. But we all know what our core business needs and our customers need. So what are the strategies you deploy to deliver on that, right? For us, one of our core strategies is customer focus, customer first. When we go to market, we want to be competitive. We also want to make sure we deliver intangible value. We want to be innovative, all right? We're constantly looking at, well, how do you deliver the service more effectively, increase productivity, give the customer more value as their business is under price pressures, like I know all of you are. I mean, raise your hand if you're not under any price pressure. So either I got lucky and you're all still on a sugar coma after lunch, or No price pressures. I think you're probably being honest. There's probably price pressures going on. Okay. One of the things we do is we like to listen to our employees, and we'll recognize them and reward them for their innovation and their ideas. Not easy to do. People all up and down the food chain of the company, but we really want to listen, and we have different mechanisms for gathering their feedback in different programs where they get rewarded, not only for their ideas, but for their performance. Safety is a big deal in our industries. We have facilities maintenance, custodial work, manufacturing. We reward people when they have zero safety issues for a period of time. It costs a lot less to give some small financial rewards than to pay injuries, right? Technology. I've actually been very impressed at Pride. For 11 years I've been there, constantly investing in technology, not just for the sake of technology, but for making our teams more efficient, increasing productivity, and increasing visibility with the customer so they get more timely information. So one of our main projects right now is rolling out a mobile solution for the facilities work that we do around the country. We've got anywhere from 100 to 500 employees at one location, and to be able to distribute workload and scheduling, they've got to have something in their hands so we can communicate real time. Pen and paper, carbon copies, we still do a little bit of that, and some of the big players in our industry still do that. It's not efficient, and it's not getting the customer a better job done on time. So that's one of our key focuses. In the janitorial space, we use something called JAMS. It's a janitorial management system. You can take pictures and attach them. You can communicate service levels, service requests, and get around the airport or wherever we're at much more nimbly, and getting our people where they need to be to address the job that's needed to be done faster. We also invest heavily in core ERP systems. As a mission-driven company, we invest in assistive technologies. So if somebody has a sight impairment, we can put software on a computer screen, enlarges the print, or it'll talk to them. The screen will talk to them. They can hear what the screen has on it. All right, really simple things, but there are special technology providers that do these types of things, and we just adapt those assistive technologies to our employees, whereas they might just be used in the home as well. So we're constantly innovating in that space. Workforce development. Workforce development's critical right now. We have a lot of succession planning going on at the company. All right, we have to be ready to continue maintaining the same level of services we've done and continue to service our customers in a way without skipping a beat as people retire or people leave the company. So we're always looking at who's going to fill a position if somebody leaves. That we're very out and open about that, very transparent. I think that's the way you want to be. It's not something you need to keep close to the vest or quiet. I think when employees know what succession plans look like, especially among leadership, I think they appreciate the transparency. It gives them a sense of security that there is a plan, because everybody, can see when there's some instability in an organization. So I think anything you can do to allay that is great. We have a formal program we just started in January called Next Generation Leadership. Okay, there's a little logo and our branding right there on the slide. What Next Gen does is we've handpicked people from around the company, many of which have come forward and volunteered for the program, went through an interview process and a competitive selection process. So now we've handpicked people that we believe we need to invest in as a company in specialized training, exposure to our executive team and upper management, including them in initiatives around the company, and they're actually working on projects on specific issues from around the company that we think need attention and need a fresh look and a fresh voice. So through this Next Generation Leadership Program, we are aggressively going after some of the key issues that will be hurdles for us in 3 to 5 years from now if we don't start addressing them. And it gives them an exposure to other people in the company and other issues that they wouldn't normally see. So that's one thing that we're doing in workforce development. Part of our culture for years now has been new employee orientations, new manager orientations. So especially as a mission-driven company, we want people to know day one what makes us successful as a nonprofit. Why are we here? Why do we exist? How can you play a key part in that as we go forward? Okay, same thing with managers. We give them the nuts and bolts managerial training while also coaching them on how to be successful managing people with disabilities. Okay, so it's a twofold process here. You may have special strategic needs that you need to focus on as airports, in terms of what your workforce development needs are. That's something that we address very proactively at Pride. And then our business model, really simply put, is we're identifying organizations that we can educate about how we employ people and the service quality that we deliver. And we really do lead with the service capabilities and the quality. But we want to be honest and make sure our customers know how we do this with a different workforce. It's a different workforce than most companies see. And so once we do the education and we show them our qualifications, what we've demonstrated on other contracts, it allays those concerns and they can just focus on how to do business with Pride. And meanwhile, they make a huge impact in their communities. So when you walk through that Sacramento Terminal B, past the Red Bunny, up the stairs, up the escalators, and you see the people in the Pride Industries uniforms, go up and say hello. They'll engage you. In fact, they'll probably hand you a card and say, if you would like, take this card and let my management know, let my company know how I'm doing. Because they actually care about the service quality, and they have the dignity of a paycheck, and they're part of something real because they're in the community working, okay? And they're doing a good job. They're amazing workers. We have people that worked for Pride for over 20 years, some over 30 years, consistently high performers, amazing people. But if you put them in a competitive interview process, they might struggle. You put them in a competitive test, they might not be able to pass that test, but they can sure as heck learn the job skills, and they can do these jobs because we fit them and we match them, we train them, we support them along the way. Okay. Our communities, like I mentioned, we have services that we provide for our communities and community partners that help engage us to provide those services successfully. Job coaching, training, placement, on-the-job skills. And then our services, we wouldn't be a company that we are today if we didn't do a good job in working with our customers and providing these services. So that's the end of my spiel. John, you're up. Wake them up, man. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Come on, give me a good afternoon. All right, there we go. I think we're about 35 minutes before we end. We're just happy that we don't stand between you and the bar, that we are not the last session. First and foremost, we are really excited to be here. One, because at Visit Sacramento, which is the official destination marketing organization, we work very closely with the Sacramento Department of County Airports. They're a fantastic partner. I had a good conversation with TJ about the expectation of the group. The great thing is I read the course book before I came in. There's nothing worse than giving a presentation and finding out, oh my God, I've got the wrong presentation. Basically what TJ wanted us to do is to give you a look on how we apply strategy. So a little bit about Visit Sacramento is every one of you, hopefully every one of you, works with a destination marketing organization. I've been in the business for 30 plus years, been in senior management for 20 plus, and really our original name was Convention and Visitors Bureaus. I learned early on when I started in San Diego, I had a VP of marketing that said, John, basically the model is for Convention and Visitors Bureau's destination marketing organization. It's really to get people from point A to point B, meaning from where they are to come and visit your destination. And you can do that by car, but more importantly, what you all do every day to get people to come to destinations in aviation is really important. So I'd like to welcome many of you back to Sacramento. I had the pleasure of going to one of your events in October. I've been with Visit Sacramento for less than a year. It was at the Train Museum. You guys have a lot of fun. My wife went and we just met some great people. So welcome back. And for those of you who haven't been to Sacramento, we're glad you're here. Tell your friends, etc. Again, the model is to bring visitors either if they're on vacations, much like you, meetings and conventions. And then there's a special niche of what we call the travel trade, which is really working with tour operators and travel agents that are kind of that third party that brings people to destination. One of the difference of Visit Sacramento than other destination marketing organization, and I've worked at a number of them, is the fact that we have the Sports Commission under us. We have the Film Commission with, hopefully all of you have seen Lady Bird. Our Director of Film Commissions has become much more popular in the community. We do a calendar called Sacramento 365, and then we have a whole unit of volunteers because do what we do requires a lot. What I plan to do in the next couple of minutes is really give you an overview of strategy, and I think what was interesting about Jeff's presentation is really strategy can be viewed in a lot of different ways, and strategy, from what I learned, is really what is your action plan. And so today really what I want to do is talk about strategy, just review some basic concepts, apply a case study of what we're going through right now to see how we work with industry partners. And our industry partners, I'm not so much going to focus on the end user, the customer, but I'm really going to focus on the lodging establishments, much like here at the Hyatt. We have 101 properties, and short-term rentals are a whole new, that's probably been the most interesting impact for us, is how do you manage your model with short-term rentals like Airbnb and the others, because they bring a whole new dimension. And probably like most of you, we work very closely with the City of Sacramento and the County of Sacramento. So let's start. So again, connecting with industry partners, a strategic approach. I wanted just to start off about, strategy means making clear-cut choices about how to compete. So literally every day, each one of you has to make a choice. And like someone said, if you don't have a map, any road will do. And if you don't have a map and you don't have strategy, sometimes you end in places that you're like, you know what? Hopefully we have reverse. I read a very interesting statistic this morning that on the average, as human beings, we make 3 mistakes a week, and we're guaranteed 150 mistakes a year. If you talk to my wife, I think my number's up. So it's funny to use Jack Welch, because if you've been reading a lot about financial news, it's interesting. Jack Welch is a person, Jeff and I talked about our love for leadership and numbers and models and strategy. And it's interesting that in June of 2018, GM was the last original member of the Dow Jones to be taken off. So when I put this up, I'm sure some of you in the group are going, Jack Welch, GM. But GM for the longest time had some great strategies. So if you go to business school, you hear a lot about Jack Welch. Some basics and concepts as we move forward. Really at Visit Sacramento, what we look at are what we call the 5 strategy core concepts. Everybody here has to grow your business, and you need to make moves and business approaches to do that. You have to attract and satisfy your customers. You have to compete successfully. I think airports do a really good job of efficient operations. At any time I'm around an airport executive, we get a lot of information on operations, et cetera. And then you have to achieve targeted levels of your organizational performance. So much like you, and hopefully again at least gives you an outline, these are the concepts that we apply. One of the key things is, make sure if I'm out of order, hold on. So one of the things that we want to do is map the strategy, which is really charting. So I think what Jeff talked about is understanding your vision and having that vision apply to everything you do. Set of objectives. What's the difference between a goal and objective? A goal is a destination. Objective really shows you the progress of how you're getting to that goal and aligning with strategy. Craft your strategy, implement it, execute, and evaluate performance. And I will tell you, one of the things that I have learned when it comes to strategy is do number 5 and do it a lot. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll create strategic plans and we put them in our desk drawers, we put them in file folders, and we just go off and do what we normally do. If you want a copy of this presentation, I'll certainly be happy to give it to you. So what I wanted to do is, I think one of the challenges when I go to conferences is everybody talks in what I call abstract thought, but how do you really apply it to what you do day to day? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you a case study. One of the most interesting things, and it's everybody in this room I think has the same challenge and opportunity, is we want to grow and we don't have enough money. The model for how we have been funded, although we're not really a private business, we're a 501(c), is that fact that we were funded for a long time from transient occupancy tax. You talk to most DMOs in California, and we've given the transient occupancy tax back to the city and counties. And we've basically created a partnership through an assessment. When you check out of this hotel, look at your folio. You will see TOT, which is transient occupancy tax, and you'll see something that says STMD, which is the Sacramento Tourism Marketing District. And that marketing district is really our investors that put a percentage of what they receive and we get it back. And what does that mean? It means that we have an $11 million budget, but clearly over 60 to 70% of our funding now is from these investors. So with that industry partnership, we started to say, well, how can we grow? So in this case study, what I wanted to talk to you very quickly, because it's happening right now, is we're starting a whole new infrastructure district. And the vision is about growth. And the vision is primarily the city had the opportunity to improve their theater and cultural centers. And we said, oh, how about the convention center that's next door? And there was a lot of pushback because convention centers, if they were profitable, developers would be building them. But the idea of a convention center is to bring people like yourself here, larger groups, and have the space, and really it's to generate the room tax and the TOT and the spendings. So basically, we had to find a funding source to construct a second ballroom. Why a second ballroom? Because if you look on the second bullet, Phase 1, City of Sacramento, does not include a second ballroom. This project is $200 million. The last time that we renovated or expanded our convention is in 1996. And when the City of Sacramento talks about a Phase 2 never happens, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. So we have the opportunity to grow our center. So basically, we have to convince through an industry strategic partnership the hotels that are permitted and the short-term rentals that are permitted to pass a petition, and we've got to get 51% vote, which is not easy, and it's all based on total room revenue. And I'm going to talk to you about how we went about going through that. And again, the second ballroom is $39 to $45 million, and again, a 1% across the board assessment. The driver, again, and I talked about this if you looked at the 5 concepts, for us was really about growing through Sacramento through meetings and conventions. Again, the city's original plan had an additional ballroom. The new possibility, the vision, is if we get this second ballroom, we can really go nationally and get new customers. We can grow with our current customers, but we have a whole new market segment. But by the way, it costs between $40 to $45 million. And again, the city had a ceiling and said, we're not going to spend any more. So we have come forward with an industry partnership strategic to do that. So one of the things I wanted to do is kind of give you our thoughts on the 5 concepts. And I'm glad I have an extra copy here because I would not pass my driver's test. But on the 5 concepts, I just wanted to give you some outlines on how do you apply this. So for us, when it talks about growing the business, we really talked about expanding the size of the current convention center. Our business approach was really creating this new infrastructure district, attracting and satisfying customers. Our customers told us, if you don't get a second ballroom, then we're going to leave and go other places. We compete against San Jose and Long Beach, and there are other centers. I just came from Moscone Center. I was the chief sales officer in San Francisco. It was a $500 million project. San Francisco was expanding their convention center to get more business. So it's a very competitive market. We believe we can attract more business from the Midwest and the East Coast. The interesting thing is I've been with Visit Sacramento for less than a year, gone on trade shows to meet meeting and convention planners. Do you know what their number one question that they have of me? Do you have an airport? Do you have an airport? So we need an expanded convention center to say we have one of the best airports and we'll have a great center. Compete successfully, you can see the expansion of that second ballroom helps us, more importantly, with our competitors, San Jose and Long Beach. If we do not build that second ballroom and we do not strategically get our partners behind us, we're gonna lose business and not achieve growth. And then really the target levels is that we had to outline specifically how we get measured in room nights and number of groups. So we had to go to these stakeholders and talk about, what we saw through an analysis of what we could generate. And sorry, I didn't turn the slide. These are, again, what I just talked about. So again, what I'm really going to talk to you about is, a lot of this on the 5 concepts or the mapping. What I really wanted to bring today to you is crafting the strategy and implementing and executing. And really, I would reinforce number 5, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So when you talk about crafting the strategy, and hopefully, again, this helps you for an outline, is you really have to have your vision, your objectives, plus your strategy. So literally what we said is we want to be an iconic West Coast convention center. When you say convention center on the West Coast, you will think of Sacramento. We've got an excellent designer. I've just seen some of the final designs and concepts. And I'm hoping that when you come back and you look across from the Hyatt and you see what that convention center is going to look like, it'll blow you away. It's going to be that iconic, with also the feeling that the citizens need to be proud of it. The objective is we want to overtake our key competition. We want to basically take business from San Jose, Long Beach. We want to generate new opportunities in the Midwest and the East Coast. Our strategy really is to strengthen market position, gain a competitive advantage, and really the action to build competitive capabilities. So when I talk about, the connecting with industry partners, the implementing and execution, that 1% that we're asking, which is not easy to go and ask people, hey, you know what, we're going to assess you, you're going to give us the money, but at the end you'll get a direct benefit. But one of the things that when you look at our local industry partners, and if you go through this exercise, from the city of Sacramento is they've got to pass this. They have to have the resolution of intent, meaning that they're going to approve through the petition process that this will pass. And then what's interesting is they operate the convention center. And so we need to make sure that how do we sell and market that building and make sure that we have a voice at the table. There's 101 lodging establishments, and so we have to assess for them to help finance, and 126 short-term rentals. And this is where it becomes difficult because these are not sophisticated business people, and that's not a criticism. It's just how do you convince somebody that's renting their home 1 or 2 rooms that there's a direct benefit from meetings and conventions, and we have studies and we've had meetings, et cetera, with them. So hopefully what I wanted to do is share with you some strategic decision-making tools that you can use when you're charting and implementing and executing. Again, remember, Jack Welch says that strategy is about clear-cut choices, because the choices that you're going to make as business people or running your airports are going to have consequences and benefits and results. So 2 things that you can use, there's like 10 strategic analysis tools that one can use when they're applying strategy. What we thought about were 2, an issue analysis and a political risk analysis. And we did this with the city of Sacramento, the lodging businesses, the short-term rentals, really with all of them. And basically what we did, when you talk about an issue analysis, The overview really means that you want strategic intelligence with your external industry partnership, the environment. What's most interesting to them? How do you get them to buy in to become a strategic partner? So you see the 3 steps there: identify and forecast. You do the analysis and assessment, the selection of issues and responses. And there's something called STEEP that we didn't use, which really, and Jeff touched on it. When you're doing a partnership, you want to know the social, technology, economic environments, and anything political or legal that's going to impact the partners that you're dealing with. So how do you apply this? And basically what I have here is an outline when it goes to show the issue analysis. So for the city of Sacramento, for step 1, identify and forecast, we have a very progressive mayor. And the mayor basically talked about Destination Sacramento, and it's about infrastructure. So this is a 30-year agreement, and with that agreement, we're talking about the ability to not only build the center, but to do other things. The theater and culture redevelopment, that helped us align with the support to build the center. Again, infrastructure funding, the mayor saw this as an opportunity that the money that we raise, which is about $3 million a year, allows us that once that center is built, that you can put more dollars in. And the selection of issues is really, we went and made a presentation to the city council, some key members and the mayor, and they were supportive of the STID. I'm not going to go through all of these, but at least if you get this PowerPoint, you can see how you can use this analysis to really kind of uncover the issues. The one thing that I highlighted that I think is really important is when it came to short-term rentals, although we went through this strategy process, we didn't know the position of the short-term rentals, because when you have 126 short-term rentals, they're all different. And what we found out, and I'll talk a little bit more about it towards the end, that step number 5 about adjust and evaluate is what we're doing right now in regards to actually a 3rd petition. We got the 2nd petition was not supportive because of a technical issue, and even though we did all of this, we have to go back and readjust. So when you talk about political analysis, it's just all of us have to, and I think in airports this really matters to you, actions taken by the government or any instability caused by unexpected government decisions or events. Define the political risk. Step 3, administrative, is an airport, is the government going to model a business like yours? Are there laws or penalties that you need to know about? And societal, what's really interesting right now is that there's a big movement in California, Black Lives Matters, and unfortunately we had a shooting that happened in Sacramento a couple of months ago. And from a strategy perspective, we've had to make some adjustments because there's a lot of focus on downtown and the funding that we're doing, and people are now saying, what are we going to do about social issues, and why are we taking all this money? So part of the pushback that we've gotten, even though we've done all this analysis, is at city council meetings, there's a tide of opposition that is real and allowing us that we may not be able to execute even though we've applied these types of strategies and tools. And then here is just an outline of how that applies, and just using the city of Sacramento for a control perspective is they've got to vote on it. If we don't get all of them to approve it, then we will not be successful. And again, the current events of homelessness and what I call local citizen feedback on certain issues is really making us do an adjustment. And the reality is, even though we did all this work, we are in the middle of a 3rd petition to get this passed. So you can do all this strategy, but that adjustment and evaluation is important. So I've got 2 minutes. Been talking too long, apologize. Couple things. The one thing I would just say for all of you is when you're looking at strategic approaches to partnership is to communicate. I can't emphasize that enough. Remember the concept of 5. or concept 5, which is evaluate and adjust. What's really interesting is that whole thing about always measure twice before you cut once is something that we learned about the short-term rentals and really identify resource experts. I just had to throw in what the new ballroom would look like on the expanded side. It's just a cool slide, and I'm proud of it. And then just as kind of a view of the second ballroom. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity. Hopefully I didn't go over too long. And again, wanted to give you some specifics on the strategic approach. Hopefully it was helpful, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jeff, for the very insightful presentations and your willingness to share your experience and your observations, certainly how you execute your company's goals and objectives. So I'm going to open up for questions. Any question for these two gentlemen on what they do and any other challenges or anything? Yes, sir.
What's the minimum wage at Pride? What do you typically pay your employees?
So on our federal contracts, we're at about $17 an hour.
Okay.
Really well-paying jobs. All of those pay and benefits are directed by the federal government for contractors to follow. Outside of the federal contracts, we have a variety of wages. We follow all the minimum wage laws for California, all the states that we operate in, and federal. There is a thing called the commensurate wage in California, which is a legislative law. It's called 14C under the state code. And what it allows you to do is measure productivity levels. So we take someone with a developmental disability who is not competitively employable, and you put them out in the community and say, go compete for that minimum wage job. And they're at 50% productivity, and the next candidate with or without disability is at 80 or 90% productivity. That person's going to get the job. The person with the more severe disability is going to be sent home. Okay, so what we're able to do is take frequent productivity measures and you adjust the minimum wage for that person's productivity. So when we go out and quote work to companies like HP or Mighty Leaf Tea, which is owned by Pete's Coffee, we're doing packaging work and that type of thing. We basically go out, we quote FTEs in our pricing packages, but it might take 2 or 3 people to make one FTE. And so that's kind of how the economics end up working on that type of thing. But the customer gets the high quality that they need through different job aids, different support mechanisms. We can ensure, the right count per package. In our electronics shop, we'll break down jobs into smaller tasks. Someone without a developmental disability could probably do, cut these cords to this length, attach them to this thing, and then put the cover on it. Someone with a developmental disability might be able to just do one of those 3 tasks. So we'll break down the work to a meaningful level, and then we have a really nice engineering team that partners with our ops team, and they put together different workflows and work processes to accommodate the environment that we're working in. So does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Yes.
Good at running. John, Rosemary, San Jose. You just talked about a threat to all that you've done, your strategy. That's obviously a very important part of an overall marketing plan and strategy. But you're not alone, as you know. So many other big cities are dealing with this. You just came from San Francisco. They're trying to manage through the threat to tourism due to crime and windows getting bashed in and all that. So are you looking what other big cities are doing to both expand given the social situations, and then how do you become a part of that solution to try and affect change and make conditions better for both residents as well as tourists?
Yeah, so short answer is yes. We're lucky that we're in an industry where there's a lot of shared experience, even though we compete. Team San Jose is one of the best destination marketing organizations, not only in California, but throughout. And there's been a real rally around homelessness and just trying to educate visitors and look at what other cities have done. For example, San Francisco has set up navigation centers where all these services can be created for the homeless. And so I know our mayor, I know our CEO has been working with other CEOs in California. Also, what was interesting is, you know, with the whole conversation of immigration and is the United States welcoming to visitors. A lot of the 5 major mayors and CEOs of the large California cities went down to Tijuana and really talked about, you know, wanting people to come. So, you know, in part, becoming part of the solution is really becoming active with the issues, and I think there's been a real education. I've been in a lot of city council meetings in the places I've worked, and I believe that Sacramento is the most vocal. So it's been good to hear the other side's story and be able to meet with them and talk about what are the commonalities. Does it work all the time? No, but I think what it does, especially in the example of the short-term rentals, there just was this confusion of how does the building of a convention center ultimately help me out. And to some you can convince, and to others you can't. So I think, again, there's that shared, and I don't know how it is among you as airport executives, but there's a lot of sharing. And then I think what we're learning as a DMO is to really get involved with issues and not to be afraid of them. And I think part of the, issue analysis or political analysis, there's a portion there that forces you to think about a response. And what we did is gone back and reevaluated on our strategy. What did we do well? And basically now, with that third petition, we're readjusting our strategy to some of the things you've talked about.
Anything else? No? Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, John, again, for your time. And again, I want to also thank the sponsor for this session, Aurora Engineering and Morrison and Merrily. And again, we have a break coming up, and we should be back here at 3:15. So thank you all. Thanks again.